Dear student in Prep 2, with you Mr. Imad Yunan, experienced teacher of science and biology. Today we will start together lesson 3 from unit 1, the main group of modern periodic table. In this lesson we will teach together the three main groups. Group number 1, alkaline metal or group 1A. Group number 2, group 7A or called halogen and noble gases. What are the meaning of alkaline metal and its properties? Alkaline metal, they are elements that located in the left side of modern periodic table. That means it exists in group 1A. This group belongs to block S because the outermost energy level is ended with S. Group 1A include elements which are lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, and francium. The element lithium contain atomic number 3, sodium 11, potassium 19, rubidium 37, cesium 55, francium atomic number 87, but the studying of francium doesn't relate it to the properties of alkaline metal because it is radioactive element. What are the properties of alkaline metal, or why alkaline metal is called this name? Alkaline, from the previous information, that it with OH or chemical formula of alkaline ends with the group OH, and they can change the litmus paper to blue. But if the sodium reacts with water, it forms sodium hydroxide and hydrogen gases is evolves. That means sodium can replace hydrogen in water and forming alkaline. Alkaline must be ended with group OH, but acid contain H in the chemical formula. Alkaline can change litmus paper to blue due to the presence of OH. What are the properties of alkaline metal? Number 1, they have one electron outermost energy level. Then 4, they are monovalent. If I asked you alkaline metal are monovalent because they end with one electron in outermost energy level, so it leaves this electron and change into positive ion. They lose an electron during the chemical reaction, forming a positive ion, which one positive charge. Why alkaline metal carry one positive charge? Because it lose one electron. When the atom lose one, the valency equal 1. Why they are positive? Because the number of proton in the nucleus is more than the number of electrons. Number 3, from properties, they are very active element. Active element means react fastly if it exists in air, so they are kept under the surface of kerosene or paraffin oil to prevent the reaction with moist air. Yani if you want to keep the sodium or potassium, sodium and potassium don't expose to air, so they must keep under the surface of kerosene to prevent the reaction with moist air. Another properties of alkaline metal, their chemical activity increases as the atomic size increases. Then 4, cesium, which has the largest atomic size, is considered the most active metal. But the activity of group 1A increases from up to down, so the lithium is least activity and the cesium is the largest activity. The metallic property increases from up to down because the losing of electron becomes easy when the energy level increases, and so the activity increases. Number 5, they are good conductor of heat and electricity because they are metal, and from properties of metal, good conductor of heat and electricity. Number 6, most of them have low density, so they can float above water. The density of this element less than the density of water. From the following figure, we can conclude that the lithium, sodium, potassium are less dense than water, therefore they float above water. The density of lithium 0.5, the density of sodium less than 1, the density of potassium 0.8, so lithium, sodium, potassium float above water, but the density of rubidium and cesium larger than the density of water, so they sink in water. يبقى give reason lithium, sodium, potassium float above water. يبقى their density less than the density of water. That means the density of this element less than 1, which equals the density of water. يبقى 1 equal density of water. Gram per cubic centimeter, that is the unit of density from your information in prep 1. Activity to prove the alkaline metal of this element. Take out sodium piece stick B from the kerosene in which sodium is kept. Number 2, roll the sodium a piece in the filter paper and put carefully in water. Number 3, repeat the previous step with potassium. Observation, both sodium and potassium react with water and the hydrogen gases evolves which burn with pop sound. The reaction of potassium with water is stronger than sodium. يعني if potassium react with water or sodium react with water, يبقى sodium plus water produce sodium hydroxide and hydrogen evolves, and the chemical symbol of this reaction represented by 2Na plus 2H2O, it produce NaOH plus H2. So the fire of sodium or potassium don't put off by water, because if you added water to the fire of sodium, the sodium react with water forming sodium hydroxide and hydrogen evolves which burn with pop sound. It is forbidden put off the fire of sodium by water. This video explains the properties of metal, alkaline metal, and the reaction of alkaline metal with water. Observe what happens if you added this element with water. Number 1, lithium reacts slowly with water, so it is less active metal. Number 2, sodium Na plus H2O, NaOH plus H2. You will find sodium float above water and lithium. The reaction increases, so the activity of sodium larger than the activity of lithium. If you put the piece of sodium in bond, you will find explosion occur. Potassium K plus H2, you must put the potassium and keep far away. The reaction increases because potassium larger activity from sodium. Bigger with potassium, if you increase the volume of potassium, you will find the explosion occur. Rubidium Rb plus H2O, this small piece, if you put large piece, you will find larger explosion or larger reaction. Cesium is the largest metallic property. If we use large volume of cesium, you will find large explosion. So the activity increases by increasing the atomic size. But francium is radioactive element. Group number 2, halogen, and called group 7A. The elements that include in this group fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, acetine. The position of halogen group in the modern periodic table exists in the right side in group 17 from the modern periodic table. They are element of block B, and if you make the electronic configuration for this element, you will find the end sublevel is B. Number 3, the non-metal of this group are called halogen. Halogen, Latin name means salt formation because they react with metal forming salts. يبقى if fluorine react with sodium it form sodium fluoride which is called the halide. If chlorine react with sodium is called sodium chloride. You will find potassium react with bromine forming potassium bromide. The symbol of potassium K plus Br2 it produce KBr. يبقى if I asked you give reason halogen called by this name because they are forming salt. If they react with metal it forming salts or potassium hydroxide, or if of potassium react with bromine it form potassium bromide. Another property, enriching information, chlorine is used in manufacture of corrector substance. Corrector the pen which used to remove the wrongs if you written in it. It is very violent liquid. On using it becomes dry quickly, leaving a white substance on the paper surface. يعني if you added corrector on the wrong word, the chlorine is volatile liquid, so it remove or it dry quickly a white substance in the words. General properties of halogen. Number 1, they are monovalent non-metal because their outermost energy level have 7 electrons. That means it ends with 7. If you make electronic configuration for fluorine or chlorine, fluorine to 7, chlorine to 8, 7, so the outermost energy level is 7. This element tend to gain 1 electron and change into negative ion. They exist in diatomic molecule, means F2Cl2. These elements are very active, so it doesn't exist in elementary state but must be exist in molecule. Number 3, they are chemically active element, so they don't exist in the nature but they are exist in chemical compound except acetylene which is prepared artificially. Halogen cannot exist as elementary but it reacts with another element forming many compound like salts like NaCl, like NaF, and this is called the halide. Each element in the group replaces the element below in their solution. يعني fluorine can replace chlorine, chlorine can replace bromine, bromine can replace iodine. The activity of this element decreases from up to down. Fluorine is the most active non-metal, but iodine is the least active non-metal or least active halogen. Another property is Cl2 plus Kbr. Cl can replace bromine because chlorine more active from bromine, forming KCl, which is called potassium chloride, and bromine is produced. But chlorine plus potassium bromide produce potassium chloride plus bromine. Another equation, bromine can replace iodine in potassium iodide. Br2 plus Ki produce TKBr plus I2, but bromine plus potassium iodine produce potassium bromide plus iodine. Property number 5, the physical state is graduated from the gaseous state fluorine chlorine to the liquid state bromine to the solid state iodine. يبقى this element exists in 3 states: gaseous like fluorine and chlorine, liquid like bromine, solid like iodine. But acetylene is prepared artificially. This video explains the properties of halogen. Halogen exists in the group 17 of the modern periodic table. The elements in this group are fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, and acetylene. That is the group 17 or group 7A. Include fluorine, chlorine, bromine, acetylene, fluorine 9, chlorine 17, bromine 35, iodine 53, acetylene 85. That is the atomic number of this element. If you see this element, you will find the chlorine is gaseous and its color green yellow, bromine in picture 2, iodine in picture 3. The chlorine greenish yellow, bromine reddish brown and exist in liquid, iodine black and exist in solid state. Group 17, in nature all halogen exist in diatomic, that means it consists of 2 atoms. They are written as F2Cl2Br2I2AS2, so it cannot exist in F or Cl, but you must written in as 2 atom, F2 or Cl2 or Br. Most of halogen exists in nature of halide salts. Halide salts means halogen with metal, like chlorine with sodium, forming sodium chloride. This is called sodium chloride or halide. If the element enter in the compound, it change its name from chlorine to chloride, fluorine to fluoride, bromine, that is the name of element, and bromide, that is the name of compound. Fluorine, halide is the name given to its ion halogen. Table below shows the corresponding halide of the halogen. يعني الهالايد means salts or means halogen with metal. Fluorine called fluoride. Chlorine, that is the halogen, and when it change into salt called chloride. Bromine, that is the name of halogen, Br2, and when react with metal is called bromide, like potassium bromide. Iodine, that is the name of halogen. When it reacts with metal, it becomes iodide. يعني you must add De in halide and put Ne in halide. يبقى this the end of halogen and the يبقى we talk together in this lesson or in this part group number A or group 1A and group 7A. Group 17, thanks for listening channel. Write your comments below the video to improve the channel and receive all lessons.